Here's a little video for some hip and low back releases when you're at work, or if you're at home and you stand up and things just kind of don't feel like they're moving real well. If you have a nice armless chair, use it. If you don't have an armless chair, a low-ish footstool, a coffee table, something that you can sit on that's going to support you but not make you get too far down on the ground. And also a tennis ball if you have one. A racquetball works well. A lacrosse ball might be a little too much for this particular movements, but you can try that as well. So anyway, grab your chair and we'll come sit with your right side next to it and sit on the edge. So my right leg is going to be forward and I'm just going to allow my left leg to extend back behind me. So this is, if we were fully standing up in our yoga pose, this would be high lunge, this pose. But my intention here is to just be supported and just let this low back, or this back leg just kind of sink down. Use your arm around the back of the chair if you need to, hold on to the wall. Be nice and steady. And then if you can, start to straighten out that back leg and rebend. So you might not move at all, and that's okay. I wore jeans, which isn't the best clothing to wear, but most people don't walk around in yoga pants like I do. Just bend and straighten that back leg. What we're doing is getting into your hip flexors, particularly your psoas, which you might be feeling in your low back. That's where the psoas attaches, the front of the thigh and the low back. So we'll do that a few times. If you want to straighten the leg, and you can lean forward and lift the chest, moving a bit more fluidly if that feels okay for your body. And then coming back to neutral, switch sides. You can also do this on the edge of your bed. It will sink so you won't be quite as supported. Left leg forward, right leg just hangs off the chair. And see if you can walk those toes back just a little bit more. Maybe you straighten and bend that back leg. Just creating some movement here without too much stress in the rest of the body. Taking a few rounds here. And maybe you straighten that leg and stay there. Perhaps you lean forward and lift back up, creating that back bend, which may or may not be appropriate for your body. And then coming back to neutral, go ahead and turn forward. Find your tennis ball or whatever sports ball you're using. I'm going to turn around on the side so you can see a little bit better, but I'm going to just take that and sit on it. Ideally, you have a chair that doesn't have a real slick surface, because this ball, I guarantee you, is going to come sliding out. But what that does is it just applies some pressure on your glutes. It might trigger your sciatic nerve depending on how inflamed it is. So if you start feeling radiation go down your leg, back away. But from here, you can, with the tennis ball, you can push into it pretty good and just move around from side to side, some circles. Adjust as need be. Again, ideally, a chair that doesn't have a slick surface, because I keep losing this. Do both sides. You're welcome to just stay there and push and hold. If you feel like that's just not enough, use a stiffer ball. I would not advise a baseball or a softball. Those are just too hard, and with the seams on there, it can irritate the skin. Go ahead and release. While we're at it with the ball, go ahead and put it on the floor, roll out your feet. We neglect our feet quite a bit. So it's important to make sure that we give them a little love. I know a lot of people don't like to have their feet massaged. So this, using the ball, is a good enough procedure to help spread out the fascia, to kind of give your muscles in your feet a little bit of love. Don't forget to do both sides. Again, you can do this standing up to add a little bit more pressure. You can change to a stiffer ball. Just listen to what your body needs and work accordingly. And then we'll go ahead and find your way up to standing. One thing that I like to do if I feel like my hips are just kind of imbalanced, like they're not moving real well, is I like to just stand on one leg. In this situation will be my right leg. I'm just going to let my left leg swing. Nice gentle bend to my leg. If you want a little bit more range of motion, stand up on something so that your leg that's floating has more space to just move about. Now remember, we're not just flinging the body here. We're not just flinging your leg forward and back. I'm very much controlling what is happening here. Notice that as I kick back, I'm not letting my body tilt forward. I'm just keeping it here in my hip flexors and in my glutes. Do the other side. As we're doing this, try not to let your hips sink. Keep the arches of the hips level with each other. And one side might be more challenging than the other. You don't have to lift the leg very far. Just a nice controlled motion. And then release it down. Shake out the legs. One of my very favorite things to do, just stand with your feet further than hip distance. I like my hands on my hips. You can bring your hands to your shoulders if you want a little bit more opening through the chest. Just start to make some nice slow hip circles here. Notice any cracking, any popping. If anything starts to hurt, like a pinch, back away and skip that area. Take a few rounds in one direction, and then we'll change directions. And coming back to neutral, walk those feet together. Take your chair. You can use the high back, the seat, whatever you're using, maybe even just the wall. Step those feet away just a little bit. Just relax the arms. And I want you to really think about what's happening here in the low back. So we'll take an inhale, press the low back towards the wall behind you. Your tailbone will sink underneath. And then as you inhale, we'll lift your chest, let your belly button sink down towards the floor for just some nice low back cat-cows here. Moving slowly. For me, it really feels nice to just kind of stick my bum out. Rounding the spine, maybe your head starts to dip down. Eventually, you might progress to softening the knees and bring your hands to your knees and do that same motion here. I feel I get a little bit more range of motion when my hands are on my knees. One more round. And then slowly come up to standing. One last thing here. Bring your hand onto your chair or the wall. Lift your left arm up to the sky and we'll start to lean to the right. Just creating some nice stretch down your left side body. If you'd like, separate those feet and really stick your hip out. That gets into some more of the hip flexors, into your abductors. Come on back to center. Switch sides. Lift your right arm up and lean to the left. Remember, you can keep those feet together or separate them and give a little bit more here. Inhale, stand back up. Work out any last kinks Just move your body the way it feels like it needs to move. Maybe you bring your knees up. Some nice knee circles feels good. Before you sit down again, make sure you take a few deep breaths. Grab a drink of water. And then when you sit down, just notice how your body feels. And set a timer, get up and move every hour or so. Hope this helps. Thank you.